The Deep Space Research Station, Aurora 7, floated near the edge of the Andromeda Expanse, where humanity had dared to explore the unknown. The stars stretched endlessly in all directions, and the station's metallic surface gleamed under the distant light of a dying red giant. Inside, a team of scientists and explorers prepared for a moment that would change history. Captain Darius Voss stood at the command deck, his sharp blue eyes scanning the holographic displays. He was a man built for the unknown, tall, strong, and calm under pressure. His dark hair was cut short, his uniform crisp, but his mind was always 10 steps ahead. This mission was different. This was not just another deep space expedition. "Are the systems stable?" Voss asked, his voice even but firm. "Power levels are holding steady," answered Dr. Leora Cade, the lead scientist. She was brilliant, one of the finest minds of her generation. Her auburn hair was tied back, and her green eyes were locked onto the control panel. "We're ready to activate the Rift Generator." The Rift Generator was humanity's most daring creation, a machine designed to open a controlled tear in space, allowing travel beyond the limits of known physics. The theory was sound. The calculations were perfect, but no one truly knew what lay beyond the threshold. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A deep hum filled the station as the generator roared to life. Energy crackled through the chamber, and suddenly, space itself split open before them. A swirling vortex of darkness and light formed at the heart of the station. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, like a storm frozen in time. The rift pulsed with energy, stretching outward, pulling at reality itself. "Energy readings are off the charts," Leora called out, her hands flying across the control panel. "Captain, something's wrong," said Commander Jalen Rowe, the ship's tactical officer. He was broad-shouldered and steady, a man who had survived countless battles against hostile alien species. His dark brown skin glowed under the artificial lights, but there was concern in his deep voice. "The rift, it's growing." Before anyone could react, the station lurched violently. Sirens blared. Lights flickered. A force unlike anything they had ever encountered dragged them forward, toward the rift. Voss gritted his teeth, gripping the console. "Shut it down." I can't." Leora's fingers danced over the controls, but nothing responded. The power surged beyond their control, the rift pulling them in like a black hole. A blinding flash swallowed the station. The crew vanished into the unknown. Silence followed. Then, darkness. The Aurora 7 was gone. The rift had consumed them. And somewhere, in the abyss beyond known space, something ancient had taken notice. Darkness. Silence. Then, a sudden gasp for air. Captain Darius Voss opened his eyes, his pulse pounding. The Aurora 7 was no longer near the Andromeda Expanse. It was somewhere else, somewhere vast and suffocating, where the very fabric of space seemed to shift and whisper. The ship's lights flickered weakly. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. The air was thick, heavy, as if unseen hands pressed down on everything. Voss unbuckled himself from the captain's chair and scanned the bridge. His crew stirred, dazed but alive. "Report," he barked, his voice cutting through the eerie stillness. Dr. Leora Cade clutched the edge of her console, her green eyes wide with shock. We're not in known space," she breathed. Her fingers raced across the controls, but the readings made no sense. "The stars, they're wrong. I don't recognize any constellations. And the rift, it's gone." Commander Jalen Rowe exhaled sharply, rubbing the sore spot on his temple. "Captain, external visuals are online. You need to see this." Voss strode toward the main screen, and what he saw made his blood run cold. Beyond the ship stretched an endless abyss, not empty, but alive. Massive, organic structures floated like abandoned ruins, some resembling colossal bones, others shifting as though breathing. Strange, luminous tendrils of energy slithered through the void, pulsing with eerie light, and at the center of it all, a structure loomed. It was neither a station nor a planet, but a vast cathedral of the void. Its spires twisted like the limbs of an ancient creature, and its surface gleamed with an otherworldly sheen. It looked like it had existed for eons, untouched by time. But the most disturbing part was its pull, an invisible force that called to them, whispering in a language beyond words. "We're being drawn in," Jalen muttered, gripping the armrest of his chair. "Engines are offline. We can't fight it." Voss clenched his jaw. They had ventured into the unknown, and now the unknown had noticed them. "Brace for contact," he ordered. The Aurora 7 drifted forward, caught in the unseen current. As they neared the towering structure, an unnatural stillness fell over the crew. The whispers in the void grew louder, sinking into their minds. Not painful, but curious. Then, as if responding to their arrival, the cathedral opened. A massive entrance, like the maw of some great celestial beast, unfurled before them. A corridor of black and violet light stretched inward, leading deeper into the abyss. Lyora swallowed hard. "Captain, something is expecting us." Voss exchanged a glance with Jalen, then straightened his uniform. His mind screamed danger, but his instincts told him one thing. Humanity had come too far to turn back now. "Prepare for landing," he commanded. "We meet the abyss on our terms." The ship eased into the cathedral's depths, swallowed whole by the unknown. And somewhere within, something ancient watched and waited. The Aurora 7 settled onto a vast, smooth platform inside the abyssal cathedral. The landing was silent. Too silent. No mechanical hum, no rush of air, just an eerie stillness that made every heartbeat feel too loud. Captain Darius Voss stood at the ship's airlock, clad in his reinforced exploration suit. His breath was steady, but his mind raced. He had faced the unknown before. Uncharted planets, hostile alien species. But this felt different. This was not just unknown. This was unknowable. Dr. Leora Cade and Commander Jalen Rose stood beside him. Lyora's hands were tight around her scanner, her auburn hair tucked into her helmet. Jalen adjusted the strap of his sidearm, though they all knew weapons might be useless here. The airlock hissed open. A strange, weightless pressure settled over them as they stepped onto the platform. The floor was impossibly smooth, black like polished obsidian, yet it shifted under their feet like liquid stone. Massive pillars stretched into a void above, their forms twisting as if they were alive. Bioluminescent veins pulsed along the walls, casting eerie violet and blue light. A deep voice, layered and resonant, echoed through the chamber. "You are bold to come here, travelers of the waking realm." The temperature seemed to drop. The words had not been spoken. They had been placed in their minds, bypassing language entirely. From the shadows ahead, she emerged. A towering figure, both ethereal and solid, drifted toward them. Her form was humanoid, yet inhuman, her body wreathed in flowing darkness, shifting like a living nebula. Her eyes burned like twin galaxies, endless and unreadable. A crown of obsidian horns arched above her head, and her elongated fingers moved with unsettling grace. The Abyss Queen, the sovereign of the unknown depths. Lyora's breath caught in her throat. She's magnificent. Voss held his ground, meeting the being's gaze. He did not kneel. He did not bow. Humanity had come far, not as conquerors, not as servants, but as explorers. "I am Captain Darius Voss of the Aurora 7, he said firmly. "We are travelers, seekers of knowledge. We mean no harm." The Abyss Queen studied him with what might have been amusement or curiosity. "Your kind is unlike the others who have stumbled into my domain." They screamed, they begged, they broke. "You, stand." Jalen's grip tightened on his weapon, but Voss raised a hand. "Stand down. This was not a battle. Not yet. We are not so easily broken," Voss said. The Queen's eyes burned brighter. "Then you shall be tested." The walls of the chamber shifted, the air thickened. The shadows around them came alive. Lyra's scanner flickered wildly. Captain, energy readings air. A force ripped them from the platform. The world around them vanished. And the trial began. The world twisted. One moment, Captain Darius Voss and his crew stood before the Abyss Queen. The next, they were falling, plunging through a void that had no top, no bottom, no end. Then, impact. Voss hit the ground with a force that should have shattered bones. But there was no pain, just the cold bite of a strange, shifting surface beneath him, like solid shadow, rippling under his weight. He pushed himself up, his breath steady but controlled. Leora. Jalen. A groan came from his left. Dr. Leora Cade lay nearby, her auburn hair loose from her helmet, her scanner clutched tightly in her hand. "I'm here," she muttered, shaking her head. Jalen Rowe was already on his feet, his tactical instincts kicking in. His sharp brown eyes scanned the surroundings. "Captain, we're not on the platform anymore." Voss followed his gaze. They stood in a vast, shifting labyrinth, its walls made of a material that swallowed light. The corridors twisted unnaturally, folding in ways that defied physics. Some pathways moved when they weren't looking. Others pulsed as if they were breathing. A thick, heavy silence hung in the air. Then came the voice. "You wish to walk among the unknown, but can you survive it?" The Abyss Queen's words echoed inside their minds, smooth yet laced with something ancient. Jalen tensed. "We're being tested." Voss nodded. "Then we don't fail." He motioned forward, keeping his pace measured. Lyora's scanner flickered erratically, unable to form a stable reading. "This place isn't real. Or it's too real," she whispered. "The laws of physics don't apply here." "We adapt," Voss said simply. They moved carefully, navigating the shifting paths. Time seemed meaningless. Minutes or hours might have passed. The deeper they went, the heavier the air became. A presence watched them. Then they heard it. Skittering. Jalen spun, weapon raised. "Something's here." Out of the shadows they came. Creatures formed of living void, their bodies flickering like fractured reflections. Their limbs were sharp, elongated wrong. Their glowing eyes locked onto the humans with unnatural hunger. Then they charged. "Move," Voss ordered. Jalen fired first, his plasma rounds ripping through the closest creature. It shrieked, its body unraveling like smoke. But two more took its place. Leora swiped at her scanner. "Their forms are unstable, energy-based. We need to disrupt them." Voss grabbed a flare from his belt. With a snap, it ignited, flooding the area with white-hot light. The creatures recoiled, hissing as their bodies flickered wildly. "They don't like strong light," Leora shouted. Voss acted fast. Jalen, staggered bursts. "Keep them unstable." Jalen adjusted his rifle, firing in controlled, blinding flashes. The creatures screeched, their bodies glitching like corrupted holograms. One lunged at Voss, but he twisted aside, slamming his flare into its core. It dissolved into nothing. More creatures shrieked in the distance, but they did not approach. They had seen what humans could do. Then the labyrinth shifted again. The walls peeled away, revealing a massive, spiraling staircase leading into a void of stars. And at the top stood the Abyss Queen. She watched them with glowing, unreadable eyes. "Impressive. You are not fragile." The creatures retreated into the darkness, leaving the humans standing in the eerie silence. Voss exhaled. They had passed the first trial. But the Queen's gaze remained fixed upon them, and the true test was only beginning. Captain Darius Voss steadied his breathing as he and his crew stood at the base of the spiraling staircase. The creatures of the abyss had vanished, but their presence still lingered like a shadow in the air. Above them, the Abyss Queen watched in silence. Her towering form radiated a presence that was neither hostile nor welcoming. It was something far beyond human understanding. The swirling galaxies in her eyes reflected unseen knowledge, ancient and immeasurable. Jalen Rowe kept his weapon lowered but ready. "Captain, I don't trust this." Voss gave a small nod. He didn't trust it either, but they had come too far to stop now. "We move forward," he said. Dr. Leora Cade took a cautious step toward the stairs, glancing at her scanner. "Gravity is stable, but there's something strange. The readings are inconsistent, like we're walking into shifting space." Voss exhaled. "Then we walk carefully." Together, they ascended the spiral staircase. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the very air pushed against them. The higher they climbed, the darker the abyss below became, until it was swallowed by nothingness. Finally, they reached the top. A vast platform stretched before them, hovering over an endless void. Above, the ceiling shimmered like a mirror reflecting an inverted universe, and at the center of it all stood the Abyss Queen. Her voice resonated through the space. "You have survived the first trial. You are not weak, but strength alone does not earn passage." Voss stepped forward, meeting her gaze. "Then what does?" The Queen tilted her head slightly. "Understanding." A wave of energy rippled outward from her, and suddenly, the world changed. Voss blinked, disoriented. The platform, the abyss, the Queen, all of it was gone. Instead, he stood in a place he had never seen, yet felt eerily familiar. A ruined city stretched before him. Its towering structures collapsed, its streets covered in dust and silence. The air was thick with the scent of ash and something older, something lost. "Captain." Leora's voice came from behind him. He turned to see her and Jalen standing with him, just as confused. "What is this?" Jalen muttered, scanning the ruins. "A memory," the Queen's voice echoed around them. "Not yours, but another's." A cold feeling settled in Voss's gut. This was not an illusion. This was real. Movement flickered in the distance. A shape, a figure, hunched and slow, walked among the ruins. Then another, and another. They were not human. They were tall, skeletal beings with elongated limbs, their skin cracked like old stone. Their glowing eyes flickered dimly, as if on the verge of going out. They walked with the weight of something immense, a sorrow that clung to their bones. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "They're dying." The Queen's voice surrounded them again. "They were once mighty. They built wonders beyond your imagining. They reached for eternity, and found only ruin." Jalen clenched his fists. What happened to them? They defied the abyss. They sought to control what should not be controlled. And so, the abyss unmade them. Voss felt a chill creep up his spine. This was a warning. The vision faded, and they were back on the platform before the Abyss Queen. She regarded them with those burning galaxy eyes. "Do you understand?" Silence hung in the air. Then Voss straightened. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned with determination. "We understand." The Queen's expression remained unreadable. Then, for the first time, her lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. "Then you may take the next step." The void around them shifted once more, and the real test began. Darkness swallowed them. Captain Darius Voss stood still, his heartbeat steady despite the shifting void around him. The platform, the Abyss Queen, even his crew, all were gone. He was alone, or so it seemed. A whispering presence moved in the void. It wasn't sound, but something deeper, brushing against the edges of his thoughts. He clenched his fists. "Another test," he muttered. A shape formed before him. Not solid, not shadow, something in between. It stretched and shrank, flickering like a dying star, until finally, it became him. Voss stared at his own reflection. Yet it was not a mirror. The other him smirked. "You think you understand the abyss?" the reflection asked. Its voice was his, but layered with something else, something hollow. Voss remained calm. "Understanding comes with time." The reflection chuckled. Time. You don't have time. You don't even have control. The void around them shuddered, and suddenly, images flashed in Voss's mind. Memories, fears, possibilities. The Aurora Seven crushed in the Queen's grasp. Lyora and Jalen, their eyes hollow, their bodies twisted by the abyss. Earth itself, a burned-out husk, swallowed by something far worse than war. Voss gritted his teeth. Illusions. The reflection tilted its head. Are they? The images blurred, shifting. Now he saw himself, older, battle-worn, alone. The Aurora Seven was long gone. The crew, his crew, were just names in a forgotten record. And in the end, only the abyss remained. Voss steeled himself. No. The void trembled at his defiance. The reflection narrowed its eyes. You fear this. You know it's possible. I do, Voss admitted. But I also know something else. The reflection smirked. Oh. And what's that? Voss stepped forward. We are more than fear. The reflection faltered. Voss's voice was firm, unwavering. We face the unknown, not because we are fearless, but because we refuse to be ruled by it. The abyss can show me every nightmare, every failure, but it won't break me. The reflection froze. Then, shattered, the darkness ripped apart, and Voss breathed again. He was back on the platform. Lyora and Jalen were there, both dazed but standing. The Abyss Queen loomed before them, her galaxy-lit eyes watching in silence. Voss exhaled. Was that the real test? The Queen's voice was smooth, unreadable. One of them. Jalen scowled. Then what's next? The Queen lifted a hand. The air cracked, and behind her, the void peeled away to reveal something vast, impossible. A great gate, pulsing with shifting energy. Beyond it, a new reality loomed, a place untouched, unseen by any human before. Step forward, the Queen commanded. Prove you are ready for what lies beyond. Voss looked at his crew. Lyora's green eyes burned with curiosity. Jalen gave a slow nod. Voss turned back to the Queen, and he stepped toward the unknown. Captain Darius Voss took a steady breath and stepped toward the massive gate. Its swirling energy pulsed with shifting colors, blues, purples, and deep reds, like a cosmic storm trapped within a frame of pure darkness. Lyora Cade and Jalen Rowe followed closely behind, their movements careful but unwavering. The Abyss Queen watched them, her expression unreadable, her galaxy-lit eyes burning like twin suns. Few have stood where you now stand, she said. Fewer still have dared to step forward. Voss glanced at Lyora. Anything on the scanner? She frowned, tapping the device. Nothing stable. It's like it's detecting everything and nothing at the same time. Jalen let out a slow breath. I don't like walking blind. Voss smirked slightly. We've done worse. Then, without another word, he stepped through the gate. For a moment, there was nothing. No sound, no air, no sense of direction. It was as if existence itself had paused. Then, everything returned at once. Voss's boots touched solid ground, but the world around him was unlike anything he had ever seen. They stood on a floating expanse of dark stone, surrounded by a sky that was not a sky. A vast cosmic ocean stretching infinitely in all directions. Stars flickered within it, some burning in reverse, collapsing into nothing before reappearing. Strange, shifting landmasses drifted in the distance, moving without any logical pattern. And then there were the structures. Massive spires of blackened crystal jutted from the floating ground, covered in intricate glowing symbols. Some stretched higher than mountains, twisting like frozen tendrils reaching for unseen gods. Lyora's breath hitched. This place, it shouldn't exist. Jalen ran a hand over his shaved head, his sharp eyes scanning their surroundings. And yet here we are. Then the voice came again, but this time not from the Queen. Who walks upon our domain? The air rippled. From the cosmic ocean, shapes emerged. They were tall, much taller than any human, each wrapped in flowing, shifting cloaks of deep void. Their faces were obscured, but their eyes burned like ancient stars, watching, waiting. Voss's instincts screamed danger, but he held his ground. "We are explorers," he said firmly. "We came seeking knowledge, not war." The figures did not move at first. Then one stepped forward. Its voice echoed, layered and ancient. "You stand at the threshold of the forgotten realm, where only those worthy may tread. Speak, traveler of the waking realm. What is it that you seek?" Voss exchanged a glance with Leora and Jalen. Then he met the being's gaze. "The truth," he said. A deep silence followed. Then the figures laughed, not with mockery, but with something deeper, understanding. "Then step forward, seekers of truth. The final revelation awaits." The ground beneath them shifted, and the cosmic ocean opened before them. And so, they walked forward, toward the final test. Captain Darius Voss stepped forward, his heart steady despite the vast cosmic ocean shifting beneath his feet. Leora Cade and Jalen Rowe followed, their eyes locked on the towering figures ahead, the beings who ruled this forgotten realm. The air was thick with an unseen force, pressing against them like the weight of 1,000 untold secrets. The tallest of the cloaked beings gazed down at them, its eyes burning with the light of distant stars. "You seek truth," it said, its voice reverberating across the endless void. "But are you prepared to bear its weight?" Voss clenched his fists. "We didn't come this far to turn back." The being's gaze intensified. "Then see." The universe shattered. A flood of visions consumed them. Voss found himself standing on Earth, but not the Earth he knew. It was whole, perfect, untouched. Towering cities of shimmering glass stretched into the sky, their structures pulsating with life. Above, the stars burned brighter, and space itself welcomed humanity's presence. A golden age. He saw humans among the stars, not as wanderers, but as guardians. Their ships were vast, their knowledge limitless. They had mastered the abyss, not through war, but through understanding. And then, it was all gone. The sky darkened, the cities crumbled, and a force older than time itself descended. Not an enemy, not a conqueror, but the abyss itself. It did not destroy out of malice, it simply was. And humanity, for all its brilliance, was not ready. Voss gasped as he was ripped back to the present. His knees hit the cold stone of the forgotten realm, his mind spinning from what he had seen. Leora clutched her head, her face pale. Jalen was breathing hard, his fists trembling. The being watched them. "This is the truth," it said. "You were never the first, but you may yet be the last." Voss pushed himself up. His voice was hoarse but firm. "Why show us this?" "Because the abyss is awakening again. And this time, your kind must choose. Asterisk, 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 asterisk to fall, or to rise." The Queen's voice suddenly returned, flowing through the void. "The knowledge has been given. Now you must carry it forward." The gate behind them flared back to life. The path home. Voss exchanged a look with his crew. They had come seeking truth. They had found something far greater. Something that could change everything. He took a final look at the forgotten realm. Then, without hesitation, they stepped back through the gate, and the abyss watched them go.